that goes into the g function. Okay, so now it's the f function, we'll go red here, this function plugging into the g function. So it's x squared plus 2x, and then I'm plugging it into, so where this x used to be up here, I replaced it with that whole thing here, plus 2. And actually there's nothing else to combine here, no like terms, so that was actually a quick one, that's my answer. Alright, next question here says, give the domain, the range, and the zeros of the function. And there's only one way for me to find them, is I have to plug in my calculator. Okay, so in my calculator, let's type that in. So go to y equals. Okay, clear out whatever we have in here. And let's type it in. So we got the square root. Oops. So second square root of 9 minus x squared. Okay, and then hit graph. And now on your calculators, these newer ones, I don't know why they don't touch here on your picture, but they're supposed to. Okay, so what I can check here is if, let's just do the domain and the range first. Okay, so we're going to find the domain. The domain are the x values that work. Okay, now it looks like it doesn't touch, but if you can count it out, it's at 3 and it's at -3. So my graph actually looks like this. It's a half circle. 3 is one spot, -3. These are called the zeros of the function. So if I were to set this equal to 0 and solve it, I would square both sides first, and then those cancel. So I get 0 squared is 0 equals 9 minus x squared. I'm then going to add my x squared to the other side. So I get x squared equaling 9, and then you square root both sides. So x can equal a plus or minus 3. And so they are supposed to touch here with closed dots. On that one, the picture does not look like that, but that is what happens. I think it's the pixels or something on the calculator. Okay? And then, with my calculator again, the y-intercept looks like it's also at 3 and touching at 3. So if I have my xy axis, this also hits at 3. So give me the domain of this function. Where are the x values showing? Well, the x values are showing from -3 until 3. How do you write it when it's in between 2 points? So I'd say -3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 3. And they're equal to because they can't hit that line. Okay, are zeros of the function. Okay, my range are my y values. So my range is the highest and the lowest. So my range is between the lowest would be at 0. So 0 is the lowest, and the highest is 3, and it's in between those two. So I'd say 0 is less than or equal to y because it's the range, which is less than or equal to 3. So it's between 0 and 3 for the height there. Okay? And the zeros of the function, where does it touch at? Well, the zeros of the function would be at -3 and 3. And that would be my solution. Alright, we got 2 more here. Alright, what is the period, or the fundamental period of this function? It is periodic because it's a repeating pattern. If you look up there, we can see that there is a figure of a W. Can you guys all see this W here? Okay, well, they're not separate here. Can everyone see right here? I got a W, so like from here to here to here to here to here makes one W. And if I took that and repeated it, it would transfer here. And you can keep repeating that pattern pretty much forever in both directions, okay? So the question is how wide or how long is that W? And I like to go from peak to peak or valley to valley. So if I'm doing this, I would maybe start you can either go from here to here, so from 1 to 7. How far apart is it from 1 to 7? It's 6. So what's the period here? 6. You could have also went from -5 to 1. Well, from -5 to 0, that's 5 units. This to here is 1 unit, and together that makes 6 units. So, however you want to figure it out, you can do that. Okay, valley to valley is a little trickier because there's 2 valleys. So if you did it, you have to start from this first valley, and then you have to go to that next valley. So if you did it that way, it's like little mountain, big mountain, little mountain, big mountain. So from the beginning of the little mountain to the next beginning of the little mountain. And that also would be 6. Okay, then it says here, what is f of 35? Okay, so what I do here is I figure out how many, because it repeats every time, so if I kept repeating, I gotta repeat it until I get out to 35. So how many groups of 6 would go into 35? Okay, so 35 divided by groups of 6, I have 5 total groups, which gets me to, so take 5 full groups times 6, puts me to 30. So how many left over would I have if I was at 30 and I'm trying to get to 35? I have 5 left over. So it doesn't go in there fully, completely. I'd have 5 leftovers. Okay, but now since I know f of 5, I'm gonna, normally it's y equals f of x, but instead of an x, I'm finding the 5 spot on the x-axis, which means when I'm looking for my answer, I'm looking for my y value or my height. So at 5, on the x-axis, what is the height? If you go down here to the height, it is at -3. So my answer here would be -3 for the height. Okay, what is the f of -43? Okay, again, I don't know, so I'm going to take 43 and divide it by groups of 6, that's my fundamental period, giving me 7 full groups, so I'm going to take 7 times 6, which puts me to 42. And if I'm doing the negative, it's -42. So how many, if I'm at 42, -42, I'm 1 away, so I actually would need a -1 then to get to -43. Okay, so f of -42, 1 more away would be -43, so it's f of -1. Okay, so then that means I'm looking for my height at -1, so go over to -1 on the x-axis, and then go to the height there, and my height is also -3. Questions on that? Alright, last thing here. Okay, last thing here is what is the amplitude? Okay, so my amplitude is the max minus the min all over 2. So what's the highest height here? 3? So it's going to be 3 minus, what's my lowest height? -3 all over 2. Negative make it plus, so it's 6 over 2, which is 3. What that means here is if I have my middle line, and this is actually the middle line here, the highest goes up 3 and the lowest goes down 3, so that is my amplitude. Okay, one last problem here. So it says here, find the inverse of f of x and prove that the two are inverses of each other. Okay, so let's find the inverse here. So the inverse, remember from the other day, reflects over the line y equals x. So inverses reflect over the line y equals x, which means what do you do when you, anytime you deal with that, is you switch your x and your y around. Now in this problem here, I don't have a y yet, but I know f of x is the same as what letter? F of x is equal to y. So I'm going to start by replacing my f of x with a y. Okay, and now I'm going to do my switch. Okay, so I'm going to switch the x and the y around. So x equals 4y minus 2. I then would add the 2. Oh, sorry, once you switch, so the 2 steps. Step 1, you switch. Step 2, you solve for y. So now I'm getting y by itself once I've switched them, this y. So I'm going to add the 2 over, so it's x plus 2 equals 4y. And to get y by itself, I divide by 4. And I'm going to get those to cancel. I'm going to flip the equation around so the y is in front. So y equals x plus 2 over 4. Okay, and to write it as an inverse, I actually rewrite this y as f inverse, that's the symbol, of x equals x plus 2 over 4. Okay, so I found the inverse. Now, it says here, find the inverse of f of x and prove the two are inverses of each other. So if I now have the two equations, so I have the inverses, how do we prove that they're inverses of each other? You just plug them into each other and we should end up with the letter x in both directions. So if I take this function and plug it in down here, I'd have 4x minus 2. And then if you have the rest of it, it'd be a plus 2 all over 4. Now if I simplify that, the 2 and the negative 2 would cancel here. And then I'd be left with 4x over 4, which those cancel and give me x. Okay, that's good. Now I go in the other direction. So now I take the blue function and plug it in here for the x there. So it'd be 4, parenthesis, and then minus 2. Okay, and I'm plugging this fraction into my thing here. X plus 2 divided by 4, and then I'm going to simplify it. 4's cancel. I get x plus 2 minus 2. Plus 2 minus 2 cancel, and I get x. So now I have proved that they are inverses of each other. Okay, so that right there is going to be what the test is going to be about. If you have any questions, you got to come find me. And I think that is all.